Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And Andrea, great job this morning. I had to go print off a couple of pages of notes that I couldn't find, so I had to reprint. And so I apologize for being a minute or two late getting on. But Andrea, great job. And she brought up the discussion of the universal DH and whether the National League will continue to employ the universal DH. And I've said this before. I really enjoyed the baseball season. I mean, it was short, albeit, but it was entertaining. It was different. The playoff schedule made it exciting. And tonight, game six, Gonsolin and Snell going at it at 8 o'clock tonight. But, you have to say, I don't know, maybe a purist who just, I don't know, who would enjoy it without the DH now that you've had the DH? It's sort of like, giving a kid a taste of ice cream. Before they ever tried it, they didn't know they liked it or not. But once they tasted the ice cream, they got to have more, right? It's the same way with the universal DH in baseball. Now that we've had it, whether you're a fantasy player, whether you're just a casual observer, or you're into it, a diehard, like we are, it's still added a lot to the season. And I just don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to where we don't have it. So we'll see what the baseball rulers, czars, decide to do. It's certainly not a democracy. They're going to make a decision and we're going to live with it, right? But I'm hopeful that with the excitement, and it's interesting to see when all is said and done, what the ratings will be for the playoffs in 2020 relative to the ratings for the playoffs last year. Or maybe we could compare the Major League Baseball ratings in the playoffs to the NBA playoffs, which everything I read about as far as the NBA is concerned, ratings were way down, woeful ratings for the NBA. And what I read about the Major League Baseball ratings is they're up. I want to see what they finally are when we're finished, either today or tomorrow. We'll be done with the season and be looking forward to next year. But I think it's been a good year considering the obstacles that were placed in the way, how the season began with spring training and then was shut down. And then there was the uncertainty of whether or not we would even have a season. And then when it started back, the excitement that surrounded it, it was just, to me, one of the best years we've had. That's to me. Now, you can disagree with that. I mean, I hate we didn't have 162 games. Don't get me wrong. But when you take the environment and the state of things the way they are in 2020, you'll have to say it was a success. Baseball season has been a roaring success, and a part of that has been the universal DH. So here we go. Tonight it's Gonsolin and Snell. Dodgers lead 3-2. We're going to see how well Gonsolin did not pitch well in his first outing, did not pitch long in his first outing. It's a got-to-win game for the Rays. And should the Dodgers jump out ahead early, then the Rays are scrambling. And if the Dodgers jump ahead early, I think they go for the jugular. Look, when you get ahead in a best-of-7 game-deciding game, you go for the jugular every time. What does that mean? The Dodgers are up 5-2. I bring in tomorrow night's starter. I bring in Bueller. I bring in whoever. Who knows if tomorrow you'll be leading 5-2. Close the thing out. Now, if the Dodgers fall behind, you can just rest assured if it's a big lead, say Tampa's up 7-0, then I just got to believe Gonsolin's going to take one for the team, go as far as he can, so that the Dodgers will have all hands on deck for Game 7. It's going to be a great game. Look, every game has had some type of intrigue, some type of excitement. Nothing I don't think, can surpass Game 4. But we'll see. Maybe Game 6 does. But it's going to be quite the interesting game tonight. We shall see how things go. The Dodgers haven't won since 1988. How old were you when the Dodgers last won the World Series? How old were you? You could be listening to this show. You could be 30 years old, and you could say, I wasn't even born yet. I was 23. I mean, I was still in law school, and I've lived a lifetime, a whole generation. There are so many people who can say, I know where I was when Kirk Gibson hit the home run. And there's so many people who can say, I never saw it live. I've only watched it on video, because it was 32 years ago. Dodgers looking to rectify ghosts from Christmas past tonight, and if not tonight, tomorrow. But if you're a Dodger fan, you're a Dodger player, you're a Dodger Connect in any way, you got to believe if you get ahead tonight, you got to try to win it all tonight, because you never know what tomorrow will bring, especially in the game of baseball. So we shall see how things go for the Dodgers. I think they win tonight. Every game I predicted wrong. I wanted, so I was going to predict Tampa Bay wins. We go to Game 7, but I'm thinking, no, you've been wrong every time. So just go with LA. I think the Dodgers win. Tampa's a great team. They can win, sure. They've won games. They've come back from behind. But I just believe the Dodgers win tonight. And wouldn't it not be appropriate? Kenley Jansen. Now, we know he's not the pitcher that he once was. But wouldn't it be appropriate? The Dodgers led by a few runs, and the ninth inning, they put Kenley Jansen in just to finish off the game. Look, Kenley Jansen. Other players, first of all, may have even opted out of the season having the health issues history that Kenley Jansen's had. David Price opted out. He didn't play. Judge that how you wish, but the bottom line is he chose not to play. Other players opted out of the season. Kenley Jansen, who has had heart issues over the past few seasons, decides, I'm going to play. I want to be a part of something. I respect that. I mean, I really respect Kenley Jansen going out, and I understand it's a risk. I'm sure he's taken all precautions all season long to ensure that he is healthy, that he is distanced socially as he should be. And it would just be so appropriate for Kenley Jansen to throw the last pitch of the World Series and the Dodgers walk off World Series champs. We shall see. We'll start tonight at 8 o'clock. Word this morning is wide receiver. We're going to football. You ready? Are you ready for some football? Because here you go. I give you 10 minutes of baseball. No game last night. We'll certainly talk World Series on Thursday morning when I'm back with you. But Antonio Brown has now officially signed an hour ago with the Bucks. If you are a fantasy football player, raise your hand. And if you have picked up Antonio Brown, raise your hand. And if you are eager to see the results of your labors picking up Antonio Brown, I think he's going to do great. First of all, the existing wide receivers in Tampa, well, they're going to take a hit, no doubt about it. Last week, I told you about my fantasy team, and I'll get back to that in a minute. Down 60 some points early on. Okay. Came back, won by 1.5 points last night, baby doll. Did you hear that? 1.5 points. 143 point something to 141 point something. But all I had left down 60 was a quarterback, a kicker, and a defender. And a quarterback, a kicker, and a defender brought me a win. But Antonio Brown is going to have impact. I think he's going to be possibly the pickup of the year. Let's look at the top performers, yes, from last week in fantasy. PPR, Tyler Lockett. I read where Tyler Lockett's 45.50 points were the 14th best all time amongst wide receivers. 200 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, 15 catches. Second on the list this week, Kyler Murray, followed by Justin Herbert. That's right, Justin Herbert, quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers, 347 yards in the air, 3 passing touchdowns, 66 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Now, I'm in a 14-team league. And if anyone in my league is listening, I am the owner of Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert. I will trade one of those for a running back of similar quality or a wide receiver of similar quality because I believe that much in Herbert, the 3rd ranking player in football fantasy this past week. Number 4, the GOAT, Tom Brady. He scored 40.16 points. Rounding out the top 5, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati quarterback, 406 passing yards against Cleveland, 3 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. Now we get to Devontae Adams at 6, Russell Wilson at 7, Baker Mayfield at 8, Carson Wentz at 9, and Jeff Wilson at number 10, the San Francisco running back, who later today it is reported will go on the IR. He will have to miss 4 games. And so the question is going to be, what's San Fran going to do at running back? Shanahan is one of these who keeps things close to the vest. Probably the rookie will come up and play. We'll see. Next up, James Robinson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Drew Brees, Deontay Johnson, a big week for the Steelers in the top 20, 2 receiving touchdowns, 80 yards. He seems to be Roethlisberger's favorite target. A.J. Brown, Tyler Boyd, DJ Moore. How about the Buffalo kicker, Tyler Bass? 23 points. He had 3 field goals of 40 to 49 yards, a 50-yarder, and a 20-yarder. 23 fantasy points. Derek Carr, Daniel Sorensen, the safety for Kansas City, Teddy Bridgewater, and rounding out the top 25, Todd Gurley. So transactional trends, something to always look at. And if you look, I'm looking at my Yahoo League, and the most dropped players so far are kickers who don't play this week. Gonzalez for Arizona, who scored 16 fantasy points last week on my team. I've cut him too. And Fairbairn for Houston. I see teams who carry 2 kickers. I think that's absolutely ludicrous. First of all, it's a crapshoot on who's going to kick field goals in any given week. I really mean that. And so kicker is the ultimate position in fantasy football to stream. It's also the ultimate position not to carry a backup on your bench. Use that spot for someone else who can help you. Fantasy football is different than fantasy baseball. Fantasy baseball, we stack players because players don't play every day. You need a good bench. Fantasy football, your bench is a weapon. It's a trade chip. It's also this year necessary because of COVID. We never know when someone is not going to be playing because of a COVID outbreak. What a waste it is to carry an extra kicker when you don't need but one. Get off your soapbox, Arnie. Let's move on. How about this for a proffer? If you're looking to stream a defense this week and the Philadelphia defense is available, and I own Tampa Bay, and I think Tampa's a great team to own. They've stopped the run dead in its tracks. But this week, if I were streaming and the Philadelphia Eagle defense was there, and you think, well, Philly, are you kidding? They're not that good. No, they're not that good. They're average, but they're playing the Dallas Cowboys. And when you're playing the Dallas Cowboys on defense, you're like a hungry lion looking at a well-cooked steak. That's right. So I'm thinking Philadelphia defense is really going to score a lot of points this week playing against those Cowboys. I don't know if you watched Dallas Sunday or not. They played the Washington football team, and they looked dead. They looked like they had quit. They looked like they didn't care. No energy, lack of effort. I'm not saying Washington isn't better than Dallas. They are. But Dallas has enough talent to score more than 3 points. A pass was thrown to rookie CD Lamb. Cut across the middle, right here in the basket. If he catches it, it looks as though he can go all the way. And he just drops the ball. And Lamb has made catches up the middle the first few weeks of the season. Very difficult catches. This was not a difficult catch. This ball was right in his breadbasket, and he drops it. Let's look at some more players who are being dropped or added. Blankenship, going back to kickers, the Colts kicker, off of a bye. Much added. The New York Giant defense being dropped a lot. Carlos Hyde for Seattle. Okay, let's talk about this. Chris Carson, the starting running back, injures his foot. Now, there are a lot of parts of a running back that are necessary to be able to play, but I think we'll all agree running back implies feet. And without a healthy foot, it will be hard to play. On this Seattle team, if you are the cowbell running back, you are a great player to own in fantasy. Now, I'm reading on Twitter this morning that Hyde has a sore hamstring. It's a day-to-day situation. And I don't know that Hyde is, for the rest of the season, the kind of player you want to have on your team. But maybe this week and next, he could really provide a great boost to your team. Now, that's all contingent, of course, on him playing Sunday. Another player added a lot today, Gus the Bus Edwards for Baltimore. My thing with Gus Edwards or any running back for Baltimore, number one, they're in this timeshare. Ingram and Edwards and the rookie, DK. I mean, you never know who's going to get all the carries, similar to what San Francisco has. But Edwards has been the goal line back. They're playing the Steelers. That's a tough defense. Got it. But Edwards has been the goal line back. And if you're needing to pick up a running back, he may be a way to go this week. More players. How about, let's talk about the 49ers. Tevin Coleman, Coach Shanahan said it's a long shot, but Tevin Coleman may be back playing this week. And if he's playing, is he worth a waiver wire add? Now, Wilson played like gangbusters on Sunday. 3 touchdowns, but on the 3rd touchdown, high ankle sprain. He's out 3 or 4 weeks. McKinnon is there. I've already talked about the rookie. I mean, I watch these guys play, and they look pretty good. Just a matter of who's going to be the running back getting the calls. And frankly, we just don't know that, do we? I mean, we really don't know who's going to be getting the work. JaMycal Hasty, watching him play Sunday, this kid has the speed, the power, reminds me a lot of Mostert. I think if I'm the 49ers, I give the ball to Hasty Sunday. It's almost like Shanahan runs on, and every running back he puts in, they run like it's their last game. That's the way they were running Sunday. That's the way I expect Hasty to run against Seattle. It's a good defense to run on, actually. That would be such a sneaky pick. How about Giovanni Bernard again this week? Mix him with the injured foot. Bernard played really well last week. It looks like he's in for another start this week. He's another streaming option that I think could pay great dividends. At wide receiver, I'm going to give you a wild card name here. I've watched him play the last 3 or 4 weeks. Nelson Aguilar for the Las Vegas Raiders. Each week, the last 3 weeks, his numbers have improved. I read on Twitter, a writer likened him as the #1 Raider receiver now. They're playing a Cleveland defense, the 2nd best defense to pass on in the NFL. I really recommend going out. If you're short at wide receiver, go out and take a look at Nelson Aguilar and look at adding him to this week's lineup. Not just this week. Look, they played Tampa last week, a good defense. Aguilar last week against Tampa caught 5 of 9 targets for 107 yards and 1 score. His last, let's see, I'm going back to week 4 against Buffalo, a good defense, right? 12.4 fantasy points and a half-point PPR. Full point PPR is more than that. Against Kansas City in week 5, another good team, 13.7 points. And in week 7 against Tampa, coming off of a bye week, 19.20 points, projected only 3.86. Don't go by projections. Don't use projections as how you form your starting lineup. Look at matchups. Look at how the player's been playing recently. These projections were made long before the season started. You can't go by them. In fact, I'll be surprised if the projection on Aguilar isn't raised dramatically between now and Sunday. But sometimes people look at projections and won't even pick a player off the waiver wire. You can't do that in the NFL. You got to look at what they've been doing the last 2 or 3 games. And the confidence that now the quarterback, Derek Carr, has in Aguilar is incredible. The fact that he's viewed as a #1 receiver is incredible. Aguilar in Yahoo leagues is only owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues. If you need a wide receiver, here you are on a bye week, go get Nelson Aguilar. You can do worse. How about that? Guys, it's been great to be with you today. I'll be back on Thursday morning. I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late, but I was back trying to get my notes together so I'd have a good show for you. It's always fun to be here. I got to go out and do a little work now, make a little dollar or two, you know. But watch that game tonight, 8 o'clock, Dodgers, Tampa Bay Rays. It's on Fox. And if you do have questions about your fantasy football or fantasy baseball off season, put them on. Let's talk about them. We'll go over that. Thank you guys in the chat room. for being with me this morning. Again, Andrea, good job as you led off today, filling in for Lenny. And I look forward to seeing each one of you again on Thursday morning, right here on Arnie's